The sun beat down on the desert like a glowing hammer, each grain of sand a mirror reflecting the relentless heat. Captain Marcelo Almeida, his face weathered by the sun and marked by sleepless nights, led the patrol with the focus of a feline in wait. The armored vehicle wound through the dunes, the monotony of the journey broken only by the noise of the engine and the constant buzz of the radio. The mission, to ensure the area's security and monitor the movement of radical groups. Suddenly the ground shook. A deafening explosion hurled the vehicle into the air like a toy. Thick smoke clouded the vision, and the air filled with debris and the acrid smell of gunpowder. Marcelo, dazed, struggled to regain consciousness. The blast still echoed in his ears, drowning out the cries of his men. By a miracle, no one had been seriously injured. The vehicle's armor had withstood the bomb's impact. "Report!" Marcelo shouted, his voice hoarse. "We're all fine, sir. Just minor injuries," replied Sergeant Silva, wiping blood from a cut on his forehead. The attack, though without fatalities, left Marcelo shaken. The fragility of life, the proximity of death, the constant threat loomed over him like a shadow. Back at the base, the adrenaline gave way to a deep fatigue, an exhaustion that went beyond the physical. In the mess hall, as he tried to swallow food without tasting it, a supply officer approached him. "Captain Almeida, a correspondence for you." It was a letter. From Brazil, from Larissa. Marcelo's heart raced. He hadn't heard from her in months, aside from the sporadic digital messages, brief and formal. He opened the envelope with trembling hands, the scented paper releasing the familiar aroma he loved so much. Larissa's elegant handwriting filled the page. The first words hit him like a punch in the stomach. "Marcelo, I need to be honest with you." Each sentence was a stab. Larissa had decided to ask for a divorce. She could no longer bear the distance, the loneliness, the uncertainty. She had found someone who made her happy, someone present, someone who truly loved her. Marcelo felt the world collapse around him. The food lost its taste, the air grew thin. The letter slipped from his fingers, falling onto the table with a dull thud. His tablemates watched him in silence. Embarrassed, he stood up, staggering, and left the mess hall, his head pounding. He needed air, he needed to understand. How could Larissa do this? How could she simply throw away years of marriage, of dreams, of plans? He wandered aimlessly around the base, the crumpled letter in hand. The image of Larissa, smiling, flooded his mind, followed by the memory of the happy moments they shared. And now all of that was reduced to a piece of paper with cold, cruel words. That night in the barracks, loneliness crushed him. He revisited the last few months, trying to find signs, clues that something was wrong. The absence of Larissa in his thoughts, the coldness in her messages, the lack of plans for the future. He had been so focused on the mission, so worried about protecting others, that he forgot to protect his own home. The next day, during the morning meeting, Lieutenant Ricardo Viana, his declared rival, took the opportunity to attack him. "Captain Almeida seems a bit distracted today," Viana commented with a venomous smile. "Perhaps he's not in a fit state to lead the patrol." The commander, Colonel Azevedo, cast an inquisitive look at Marcelo. "Is everything all right, Captain?" the colonel asked, his voice firm. Marcelo took a deep breath, trying to control his anger and pain. "Yes, sir, everything is under control." But the lie sounded empty, even to his own ears. He knew that Viana was just getting started. The lieutenant smelled blood, the fragility of Marcelo, and would not miss the chance to rise at his expense. The bomb in the desert and the letter from Larissa had opened a dangerous crack in his armor, a crack that Viana intended to exploit to the fullest. "Yes, sir, everything is under control." The lie hung in the thin air of the meeting room, weighing on Marcelo's shoulders. He needed to talk to Larissa, to understand what had happened, but pride and pain formed a knot in his throat. That night, locked in his quarters, he dialed her number. He called until it went to voicemail. He tried again and again. With each passing hour, hope diminished, replaced by a growing bitterness. The next day, he found a message, brief, concise, impersonal. "Don't insist, Marcelo, there's nothing to discuss." The coldness of those words cut deeper than any bomb shrapnel. Still dazed, he sought news of Larissa through mutual friends in Brazil. Gradually, information began to emerge, like pieces of a painful puzzle. Larissa was working on a grand project, the revitalization of an old industrial complex, transforming it into a cultural center. The architect in charge was a prominent name, renowned, and according to the rumors reaching Marcelo's ears, very close to Larissa. A mix of anger and helplessness consumed him. Meanwhile, at the base, Viana intensified his campaign. Small sabotages, inexplicable delays, noise, distorted information that reached Colonel Azevedo's ears. Marcelo felt the web closing around him. The last straw came during a nighttime patrol operation. A seemingly trivial communication error resulted in a delay in the arrival of a supply convoy. The delay, while without serious consequences, was enough for Viana to turn the situation into a scandal. The next morning, Marcelo was summoned to an extraordinary meeting with the command. Colonel Azevedo, with a stern expression, was waiting for him in the meeting room. Viana was present, a victorious smile plastered on his face. "Captain Almeida," began Colonel Azevedo, his voice deep, "I was informed about the incident last night, an unacceptable delay that jeopardized the safety of the operation." Marcelo tried to explain himself, to present his version of events, but was interrupted by Viana. "With all due respect, Colonel, it seems clear that Captain Almeida is not fully focused on his responsibilities. Perhaps he needs some time to resolve his personal issues." The venom dripped from Viana's voice. Marcelo felt his blood boil in his veins. Colonel Azevedo sighed, visibly displeased. "Captain Almeida, in light of recent events, and considering your emotional state, I have decided to temporarily relieve you of command of the operations. Lieutenant Viana will assume your duties on an interim basis." The silence in the room was deafening. Marcelo felt the weight of humiliation crush him. Being removed from command, publicly reprimanded in front of his subordinates, it was the worst thing that could have happened. Viana, with a disingenuous smile, extended his hand to Marcelo. "I'm sorry about this, Almeida, but the good of the mission must come first." Marcelo ignored the outstretched hand. He looked into Viana's eyes and saw pure malice, unmeasured ambition. He swallowed his pride, took a deep breath and replied, his voice steady despite the pain, "Excuse me, gentlemen." He left the meeting room, head held high, but his heart in pieces. The humiliation was profound, the injustice glaring, but deep down a spark of determination began to smolder. He would not be defeated. He would uncover the truth behind that conspiracy and prove to everyone that he was innocent. And above all, he would discover what really happened to Larissa. This was just the beginning of the battle. However, being removed from command threw him into a limbo. Without daily responsibilities, time seemed to drag on, amplifying the pain of betrayal and the feeling of helplessness. But Marcelo was a man of action. He needed to understand. He began to revisit every detail of the past months, every conversation, every glance. Something didn't add up. Taking advantage of the relative freedom, he began to investigate Viana's actions. Discreetly, he questioned his subordinates, analyzed old reports, looking for patterns. Soon, the first cracks began to appear. Equipment diversions, favoritism towards local suppliers, strategic information leaked to dubious sources. The evidence, though circumstantial, pointed to a well-orchestrated corruption scheme. On a cold night, sitting in his quarters, Marcelo found a disturbing connection while analyzing documents. Viana had frequent contact with a local extremist group known for its illegal activities and radical ideology. What could a Brazilian army officer have to do with terrorists? The question echoed in his mind. Meanwhile, the longing for Larissa consumed him. He needed to know what had led her to make that decision. He decided to seek the truth behind the architect's story. Through a mutual friend, he obtained the contact information for the office where Larissa worked. He called hesitantly and arranged a meeting with one of the partners. The meeting took place in a discreet cafe, away from the curious eyes of the base. The partner, a middle-aged man, greeted Marcelo warmly. "Captain Almeida, Larissa is an exemplary professional, talented, dedicated, a true asset to our team." Marcelo took a deep breath. "How long has she been working with the architect, Fabio?" The partner frowned. "Fabio? We don't have anyone named Fabio working with us. Larissa is responsible for the urban planning department. She works directly with me." The revelation hit him like a punch. The story of the renowned architect, the love affair, everything crumbled. But then, who was Fabio? He decided to take a risk. He called Larissa. To his surprise, she answered. "Marcelo." Her voice sounded hesitant, almost scared. "Larissa, I need to understand, who is Fabio? What is happening?" A long and painful silence followed. Marcelo could hear Larissa's ragged breathing on the other end of the line. "Marcelo, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I made a terrible mistake." Her voice broke. Marcelo felt his heart tighten. "I was feeling so alone, Marcelo. So neglected. You always so far away, so absent. I was afraid of losing you forever. And then I met Fabio. He was attentive, present, made me feel important. But he lied to you, Larissa. He deceived you. He used you." "I know, Marcelo, I know. I found out the truth not long ago. He told me he was an investor, that he had a lot of money. He convinced me to invest in a business he said would be very profitable. I trusted him. I was naive." Larissa's words struck him like lightning. The truth was more complex, more painful than he could have ever imagined. Larissa was not the villain of the story. She was just a victim, manipulated by an unscrupulous man. The conversation was interrupted by a noise on the line. Larissa screamed. Larissa? Larissa? What's happening? The phone went silent. Marcelo felt a chill run down his spine. He needed to act. He needed to protect her. Meanwhile, at the base, Marcelo found an unlikely ally, Sheikh Omar Hassan, an influential leader of the local community, initially wary of the Brazilian military. Through an interpreter, Marcelo explained to Omar his suspicions about Viana and his possible connections to extremist groups. Omar, a wise and perceptive man, listened attentively. By the end of the conversation, his eyes shone with an unusual intensity. Captain Almeida, your words are serious. If what you say is true, Viana is a threat not only to you, but to the entire region. I will help you uncover the truth. With Omar's help, Marcelo began to dismantle Viana's corruption network. He uncovered secret bank accounts, money transfers to tax havens, clandestine meetings with extremist leaders. The evidence was irrefutable. On a dark night, Omar took him to a remote hideout in the mountains. There, amidst weapons and explosives, they found documents proving Viana's connection to a terrorist attack planned to target the Brazilian base. The goal was to destabilize the region and create a climate of chaos, favoring the interests of the extremists. Marcelo felt his blood run cold. Viana was a traitor, a criminal, an enemy of the homeland. He needed to stop him before it was too late. The next morning, Marcelo gathered his trusted men. He explained the situation, presented the evidence, and asked for their support to arrest Viana. At first there was hesitation. Viana was a respected officer with good connections, but seeing the determination in Marcelo's eyes and realizing the gravity of the accusations, his men rallied to him. As they prepared for the operation, Marcelo received a call. It was Larissa. Marcelo Fabios, he kidnapped me. He's holding me captive. He said he will use me to get money. Please, help me. The desperation in Larissa's voice broke Marcelo's heart. He needed to save her. He needed to arrest Viana. He needed to act fast. I will find you, Larissa. I promise I will save you. At that moment, Marcelo knew he was about to enter the most important battle of his life. A battle that involved betrayal, corruption, terrorism, and above all, the love for a woman who had made a mistake but deserved a second chance. The price of victory would be high, but he was willing to pay. Justice, honor, and love were at stake. I will find you, Larissa. I promise I will save you. Adrenaline surged through his veins as Marcelo, with his heart in his throat, planned the action. He couldn't hesitate. Every second counted. He gathered his trusted men, those who had shown unwavering loyalty, and devised an audacious plan. The priority was to rescue Larissa, but arresting Viana and exposing his betrayal were equally crucial. The rescue operation was meticulously coordinated. Sheikh Omar, with his knowledge of the region and its inhabitants, provided valuable information about the whereabouts of Fabio and Larissa. With the help of some of his trusted men, Omar indicated a hideout in the mountains, an isolated and hard-to-reach place, perfect for a kidnapping. While one group headed to the hideout to rescue Larissa, Marcelo, along with another group, prepared to confront Viana. The tension was palpable, the air heavy with expectation. Marcelo knew that Viana would not surrender easily and that the confrontation could be violent. At the military base, Marcelo called an emergency meeting with the senior officers. He presented the evidence he had gathered, the documents proving Viana's connection to the extremists, the money transfers, the secret meetings. At first, there was disbelief, but as Marcelo presented the evidence, skepticism gave way to perplexity and outrage. Lieutenant Viana, Marcelo announced with a firm voice full of emotion, you are under arrest for treason, corruption, and conspiracy with terrorist groups. Viana, visibly surprised, tried to defend himself, denying the accusations and accusing Marcelo of plotting against him, but the evidence was irrefutable, and his argument sounded empty and desperate. So you can't do this, Almeida. I am an officer of the Brazilian army. I have powerful friends. Your friends won't be able to help you now, Viana. Your crimes are too serious to be ignored, Marcelo replied, with a cold and determined look. As Viana was arrested and taken into custody, Marcelo received the news that Larissa had been rescued safe and sound. An immense relief washed over him, and a smile of happiness lit up his face. The next day, Marcelo was called to the general's office. The atmosphere was tense, but Marcelo kept his head held high, confident in his innocence and the justice of his actions. Captain Almeida, the general began in a grave tone, you have been accused of insubordination and acting on your own, without following superior orders. General, Marcelo replied respectfully, I acted in defense of the homeland and the safety of my men. I couldn't just stand by while a traitor conspired against us. The general stared at him for a few moments with a penetrating look. Then he sighed and smiled. Captain Almeida, your actions were courageous and decisive. You exposed a network of corruption that was eroding our institution. You saved lives and prevented a terrorist attack. You are a hero. Marcelo was reinstated to command, receiving praise and honors for his bravery and integrity. But what matters mattered most to him was having his honor restored and the chance to rebuild his relationship with Larissa. When they finally met, Larissa ran into Marcelo's arms, crying with relief and regret. "Marcelo, forgive me. I was foolish, naive. I believed in a man who didn't deserve my trust. I hurt you. I betrayed you. I know, Larissa, but I was wrong too. I distanced myself from you. I neglected you. We both made mistakes. But the important thing is that we are together now, and we have the chance to start over." Marcelo explained to Larissa everything that had happened, from Viana's conspiracy to the kidnapping. Larissa listened attentively, her eyes brimming with tears. "I'm so sorry for everything you went through, Marcelo. I don't deserve your forgiveness. You deserve a second chance, Larissa. I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life by your side." Larissa, moved, hugged Marcelo tightly. "I love you too, Marcelo, more than anything in this world." Marcelo and Larissa decided to marry again in an intimate and discreet ceremony just for close friends and family. It was a new beginning, a chance to build a future together based on trust, respect, and love. After completing his mission in the Middle East, Marcelo was transferred to the south of the country, where he took command of a military unit in a calm and peaceful region. Larissa, with her talent and creativity, opened an architecture and decoration office, becoming a renowned and sought-after professional. Marcelo and Larissa rebuilt their lives, overcoming obstacles and difficulties. They learned from their mistakes, strengthened their relationship, and became more united and happier than ever. The trial they faced made them stronger and more aware of the value of love, family, and honesty. Marcelo's actions inspired other military personnel who were victims of similar scams to report the criminals and recover their losses. Justice was served, and the guilty were punished. Marcelo became a symbol of courage, integrity, and perseverance, a hero who fought against corruption and injustice and triumphed with honor and dignity. And so Captain Marcelo Almeida, an officer of the Brazilian army, found redemption and happiness alongside the woman he loved, in a new home, in a new beginning.